So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the At a Zero podcast.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen from At a Zero podcast, and today I'm going to be sharing with you about why I'm blowing up my business and why you should too. Now, in order to be able to talk about the blowing up of the business, perhaps I ought to just briefly give you a bit of context to understand as to what I'm actually referring to and why this is so relevant to you in your business right now. Earlier this year in May, we celebrated our 10th anniversary of my TrueNORTH. A momentous occasion to be able to recognise that as a small business, we'd hit the 10-year milestone. Ironically, about 30% of businesses that launched 10 years ago are still in operation right now in their 10th year. So to recognise that we were within the 30% of businesses that 10 years ago launched and started their business. And as a result of that, we had the obligatory meal with staff and suppliers to be able to offer thanks and recognition. And as part of that celebration, I spent a little bit of time reflecting on the journey so far of the people that we've served, of the lives that we've changed, of the transformations that we've made for the clients along the way. Some things to be able to share and recognise and acknowledge at that inaugural dinner. However, in doing so, I also started to realise that during that process of the last 10 years, we'd started to move from the specialist scale and exit mentorship that we provide and started to become more mainstream business coaches. We were very much at risk of falling into that sea of sameness that I never wanted to be in the first place. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you and why it's so relevant to you is that even as a scale and exit mentorship ourselves, we can fall into the trap of slowly degrading to diluting, to being swayed off course just by 1 degree that eventually takes us away from true north and back towards magnetic north. Let me just quickly remind you as to what I mean by that. For me, the metaphor about magnetic north is not staying completely true to you, your vision, your values, your mission, what it was that you set up in business for in the first place, the why you are in business. That magnetic pulse that starts to pull us away from our path towards that of what everybody else is doing. We can all get drawn into this social media patter of, well, they're doing X, didn't we ought to do it? They've done Y, perhaps we ought to do that too. We can all be so easily influenced, and because social media is so 24/7 these days, it's so easy to get caught up in the trap of almost the comparison between you and others, that before you know it, just 1 or 2 degrees of movement away from your true path leads you down a path towards being compared with anybody and everybody else. And the risk and the danger of doing that is that the moment that there is an easy to make comparison between who you are and what you offer and why you offer it, and what somebody else's offer is, even if what they're actually delivering is completely different, if the packaging of the product looks similar, then to the untrained eye, the easiest and quickest method to be able to determine as to whether they're going to buy from you or your competition is to compare on price. And that is a risk to the bottom. It's just a race to who can charge the least amount of monies to deliver the most service, and as a result, grow broke. Now, we weren't in any position like that on our 10th anniversary, but it deeply made me realise that unbeknownst to me, unaware of those little chips away over the last 18 months, 2 years or so, that we'd slowly move the needle 1 or 2 degrees off course, away from where we'd originally set out to be and where I want to be in the future. And therefore, whilst we enjoyed a 10th anniversary celebration and we recognised the journey that we've been on to get to where we were, I, in the background, began the work to determine, and what do I now need to do differently, to do more of, to do less of, to stop doing, in order to steer my True North back on course, in order that we can return to what it was that I set out to do in the first place, to be able to help and support conscientious business owners to significantly and sustainably grow and scale their businesses by applying the Adazero methodology. So, since May and that inaugural dinner of celebration, I've got my head back in the books. And interestingly enough, in the first week of June this year, I chose to put my True North through the My True North Adazero process. I chose to be able to turn my True North from the deliverer of the service, and I created my True North as a prospect and a new customer in the business. Now, that might sound a little bit obscure, so let's just put this into a real context so perhaps you can determine as to how you do the same. Rather than just treating your business as a customer, why don't you consider a secret shopper? Someone who is unattached from the business, someone who's got no emotional connections to the outcome, and give them the remit, not of I'd like you to be able to test out how good we are, but to give them the remit to say, I want you to find all the flaws in my business and tell me how bad we are. Trust me, there's a bitter pill to swallow when the information comes in. In June this year, I put my True North through the Adazero audit process. Rather than emotionally connecting to the outcome, I interviewed me as a customer and asked it the initial Adazero 30 questions from our free scale audit. And the results weren't pleasant. Whilst on the outside, we were so determined to be able to deliver real values to our customers, on the inside, we haven't grown as quickly as the customers to which we serve. We haven't been applying in full the information that we've been sharing with others to do so. We've been that busy being able to provide content and value to others that the to-do list of things that are outstanding as we continue to grow and evolve and develop just became longer. Our priority has always been to serve customers. And as a result of that, whilst we were so busy serving customers, we were failing to serve ourselves. And as a result, over a period of the last 10 years, the True North needle had moved by 1 or 2 or possibly 3 degrees off course. And as a result, realising that at the beginning of June this year, it made me really, really keen to be able to do whatever was necessary to be able to pull us back on track so we can celebrate our 15th and our 20th and our 50th year in business. And therefore, throughout June and July, I've spent a lot of time doing data research, just as I've done with the Adazero program, on our own business, on the current competition, looking at our regional, our national, our international competitors to be able to say, how do we differentiate? What is our niche? Where are our successes? What do we need to do differently? More of? Less of? What do we need to stop doing in order to continue to be as relevant as possible to the people with whom we get the best results for? And as a result, I've spent the last 5-6 weeks reviewing line by line by line every single aspect of the delivery of what we offer, of how we offer it, of who we offer it to, and the impact it's had on those we've had the pleasure and privilege to serve. And as a result, I'm delighted to share with you that as of tomorrow, at the point of recording this, everything goes live tomorrow morning with what I have been referring to internally as MTN, or My True North, MTN 2.0. I've shelved a lot of what has led us to where we are today. Some of the programs, some of the most profitable programs that we've had over the last 10 years will no longer be available as of midnight tonight. And instead, I've simplified the process to work with us. We've created one signature program and an easy to follow 3-step methodology to enable people to step in and work with us on a temporary basis, to step a little further and work with us on a very short-term basis of a few months, and a further phase if people want some ongoing and added support and accountability as we implement the full Adazero methodology. Everything else, some of the most profitable and most successful businesses and programs that we've run over the last 10 years have all been shelved today, archived, recognised for what they've done, but also recognise that they are part of the problem by turning us into a general coaching company that is far easier and too easy to be compared to anybody and everything else, that it doesn't truly serve those with whom we've got the evidence to show we've had the biggest and most transformational impact for. So I'm really, really excited to be able to pull the plug and completely implode MTN 1.0 whilst recognising that everything that it has done has led us to where we are today. It's given us the testimonials, it's given us the case studies, it's given us the ability to be able to beta test new programs, it's given us the opportunity to be able to support well over 1,000 businesses to be able to add a zeros to their business. And yet in doing so, it slowly pushed us back into that sea of sameness. And it's not where I want me or my business to be for the next 10 years. And so all of that is being put to bed tonight. The new website, the new social media, the new email campaigns, the new offer, the new audience are all being launched as of we speak tomorrow morning. So I guess the question as we start to wrap up this particular episode, this transitional episode from what was to what will be, Jay, who are you and who do you serve? What do you offer? Well, for now and for the next 10 years, that's really, really easy. I and My True North are a scale and exit mentorship for the accidental business owner. What I mean by that is the business owner that started their business to earn a living. They are exceptionally good at what they do, and over the last few years have become so good at what they do that they've built a small team around them in order to continue doing what they do. But as a result of that, they've now ended up becoming overworked and underpaid by still trying to do what it was that they're really good at doing, whilst managing an unexpected team of other people around them at the same time. They're still both owner and operator. They're still a fee earner and trying to manage a team and all of the dynamics of running a successful multi-six-figure business. And as a result of that, they start to feel overwhelmed and challenged, and perhaps have even asked themselves the question, is this really what success is? I seem to be working harder. I seem to be stressed. I seem to have got a lot of challenges on my plate that I didn't really envisage when I first set out in business. And as a result of that, I've ended up working earlier in the morning or later in the evening. I've perhaps ended up doing some work over the weekend. I've started to compromise the time with my family as a direct result of the success that we're having in business. And for those people specifically, we're going to provide you with a 12-week program on how to move from trapped owner to freedom of CEO. We're going to show you how to be able to transition from being the operator owner to being the overseer of a super successful business by applying a 3-step methodology through which we will apply the Adazero methodology. It sounds a little bit complex perhaps as a sentence, but we've simplified things. We've been really, really specific with regards to who we've had the best results for. And as a result of that, we're going to move forward and know full well that we've got one offer to one client base to whom we're going to transform their lives. God bless, take care. I'll see you next week to tell you a little bit more about what that has in store for you. Thanks again. I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Adazero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with TrueNORTH, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.